Hi, welcome back. This is Ben. We want to do something a little bit different this week. I want to kind of get a little bit more into the locked book that we were talking about last week on the show. We kind of started off this new campaign setting, and I got some really good comments on the YouTube page and on my Facebook and just personally, and I think that this can be a really interesting campaign setting and an idea, and I wanted to get into it and explore it a little bit more. So while I'm talking about it, I'm going to show the video of Brian painting the keys. We didn't get to show that painting with last week's episode because we showed him painting the book. So while you watch that, I'm going to talk to you a little bit more about the locked book. First of all, thank you so much for your comments. They really mean a lot to us, and it's very helpful when we get them, and just to kind of like help us know what you guys want to talk about or want to hear about. So for the locked book, the idea is generally, just to recap, there is a book that the party finds, and on a detect magic or something, it will ping as very strong magic, very strong conjuration magic. I believe teleportation is a conjuration. I'm just going off the top of my head right now, but it'll ping as artifact level power. It's locked by these 3 keys or 4 keys, however many you want. And that's going to be kind of the theme for this, is that you can customize this book as intricately as you want or as wide-ranging as you want. Planar adventures can be very cool. And one of the things that makes Planar adventures really interesting is that you can just really go nuts with your campaign. You can do all kinds of crazy, weird, interesting stuff, right? You can have the party can be in one of the a hell fortress one week, and then the next week they're in Unicorn Land, and then the weekend after that they are teleporting into a waterfall, and they've got to figure out if they can feather fall before they hit the ground. You can teleport them into deep space. You can teleport them into Jurassic Park. You can teleport them into weird future stuff and have you can teleport them into Star Wars. It doesn't matter. Whatever you want to run, you can put the party in there through plane shifting and planar adventure kind of stuff, and it can allow you to really keep the party on their toes and just keep yourself really invested in what's going on, because you're constantly coming up with cool new dungeons, and you don't have to have a good reason as to why all of these things fit together. It doesn't matter. You're quantum leaping through all space, time, future, forwards, backwards, other realms, other parts of the same realm. And it really makes for a cool setup for a campaign. The problem here with being a dungeon master in this scenario is scale, right? How do you, as the dungeon master, prepare for this adventure when the party can travel forwards, backwards in time, different dimensions, other realities, other planes? They could go to heaven, they could go to hell, they could go to monkey heaven, or wherever the monkeys come from when you summon monkeys using extra dimensional powers. And there's some things you can do to really control this aspect of the locked book campaign. So last week, and for the Dungeon Mastery show, it's a little bit better to keep things in a smaller scope, since we're going to be writing all of these up and producing them into PDFs and things of that nature, posters and stuff. So for the purposes of that, it was, you find this book, it's very magically powerful. You have a key. When you put the key into the lock, you turn it, it teleports the party to some random dungeon of your design. You fight your way to the end of that dungeon. At the end of that dungeon is a key. You put that key in, and it teleports you to the next step. It works in story-wise because the book is just leading you to the keys, which have been scattered throughout the different dimensions or realities or whatever. But one of the great comments that we got was saying that this can feel a little linear and a little railroady to the party, and that's very true, right? If you as a newer or beginning DM want to really limit the scale and kind of drive the party into cool realms and areas without making them, without stressing yourself out about what happens if they decide they want to go back to where to find the guy that invented gold coins, or go back and kill the emperor or whatever. That can be a little tricky. But there's also, as you get through and more experience with Dungeon Master kind of stuff, you can really expand this. So when I ran it in my campaign, I gave the party the ability to plane shift once a day anywhere they want, forwards, backwards, in time, different realities, different wherever, right? And you almost hamstring the party by giving them too many options, right? I was like, they were fighting some completely unrelated adventure, and they found this book. And then it popped that, like, this is a very powerful thing, and the main bad guy, the big bad guy that you guys have been hunting, is clearly overpowered for you. But if you got this book unlocked, maybe you could come back here and destroy him. And so, it became, okay, this book once a day will allow you to plane shift anywhere you want. And once you get the book unlocked, you'll be able to plane shift basically at will. But that's a problem for a different time. That's a problem for future you. You get this book once a day, every 24 hours, you can plane shift anywhere you want, you tell me. And then I gave them 2 good leads on where keys might be. Right, the guy that they brought the book to, who kind of explained what was going on, he was like, well, I knew a guy that was very powerful and would know this sort of thing. You could go talk to him. He's in this like dark, twisted, weird future, which when they go there, it's like Viking Ragnarok kind of stuff happening. Or he was like, well, there was also a guy who was the greatest scholar in the history of this book, but he went completely insane, killed his family, he died, he went to hell, he's in a fortress in hell being tortured forever by demons for accessing powers and knowledge that he, had no right to access. And so then the party's like, okay, all right, well, we can go somewhere wherever we want, or we have these 2 options. And then as they go through, when they go to look for the first key, I drop a couple more things. Oh, this character's tragic, your character's tragic backstory, like, you get a lead on it. And maybe if you go here, you can find out more about the man that killed your father or whatever. And as the characters are going through these dungeons, the actual player characters are getting leads or clues on, here's where a really good piece of equipment is. You could go over here if you wanted to, into this other realm and fight them and get this sword or this armor, or find out more about your character's backstory and maybe get something cool out of that. So you can drop these little side quest hints as they're going through these planar adventures, so that anytime they finish one of these dungeons, they have, oh, do we want to go look for the next key, or do we want to go do this little side quest thing? It never becomes like, because they have so many options being able to go anywhere, they never sit there and go like, oh man, like, what crazy, they're not going to come up with like too many weird things that'll screw you up. But I also worked some precautions in for that in my campaign that I was running. So the plane shift works once a day, and you can tell me where you want to go. You name it on the book, and it will bring you there. But it's not a guaranteed thing. So what I have them do is I have them roll a straight D20, right? And a 20 will bring them, if they want to go back to, let's say they want to go back to 1939, assassinate Hitler, right? You roll a D20, you get a 20, you're there. You show up and like you're in the perfect spot to, make sure that the Valkyrie bomb goes off or whatever. But if you get a little bit off from that, you don't get exactly where you want. Right, a 17 to a 19 gets you at the entrance of the dungeon, or gets you like halfway through the dungeon that you've drawn up for this. Maybe a 15 gets you at the entrance of the dungeon. A 10 gets you a couple days walk. Maybe you're in view of the dungeon that you want to get to. Lower than that, maybe you're in, you've got to hike for a few days before you can get to this dungeon where the thing is that you're trying to get to. You roll a 1 or a 2, you might not even end up in the same plane, right? You might end up on this secret map that I drew that I don't know if you were ever going to get there. And so, yeah, it's just a straight D20, and that tells you how accurately you get to where you are. And this gives you, as the dungeon master, a chance to buy time, right? If they come up with something that you were not expecting, right? They come up with some way to, like, go back and kill the main bad guy when he's a baby or whatever. Make them roll that natural 20. If they get the 20... fine, right? Whatever. That's just how this game works. But if they get a 12 or a 14, you can drop them in and have an encounter ready in your back pocket that you can reskin. We've already recorded all of the episodes for the locked book. I think I talk about this in one of the later ones, but like, have 1 or 2 encounters handy where it's just like, here is a party of equal leveled fighters, or 6th level fighters, or here's a party of like here's a dinosaur encounter that is level appropriate for the party. And then when they teleport into whatever realm they want to get to, if it's a fire realm or an ice or, ancient Egypt or whatever, they will teleport in and you'll have a fight ready for them. And that will buy you a little bit of time to kind of scramble and figure out how you're going to deal with this. If they try to throw you off and go somewhere weird, then you can basically like draw out that session to where you can kind of just buy yourself time. You have some battles and stuff, and then you just throw like one big battle at them, and then maybe, give them a decision. Oh, you can go north through here or south through here. Let them talk it over for a little bit. Try to like kind of draw the session out a little bit so that you'll have in between to kind of think about what you wanted to do or what you want to do with this thing that they're going towards. There's like little things you can do. Just rolling a 20 is great, and it's 24 hours, so if they get a really bad roll and they end up somewhere really bad, right, you end up in the elemental plane of air where you just fall, right? You don't even get to rest. You're just falling for 24 hours, or elemental plane of water, or just they messed up once and I just teleported them into an ocean, right? You're just in an ocean, and there's no boats, there's no nothing. You're just treading water, and like, do you guys have what you need to do? What are you going to do to survive for the next 23 hours while you wait for this book to recharge? So, there's a risk to using this, and we're going to see, we have coming up next week, we're going to have a little bit where there's a creature, there's some forces at power that don't want you to be manipulating time and space like you're doing. So the more the party starts to abuse that sort of thing, and then this is an easy encounter, like I said, have an encounter ready. It's a real easy encounter to just be like, oh, okay, this force arrives and is like, or you get interdicted, right? One thing that happened was the party wanted to go somewhere that I wasn't expecting, so I have these dark forces, these time forces that are basically like lawful, neutral, demonic, like God kind of things that they don't want you messing around with the order of time. So when the party is going to go use the book to teleport into somewhere that's going to really mess you up, these guys suddenly yank them out of that. They catch them before they quantum leap, throw them down into this arena where they attack. The party has to fight them, has to figure out a way to escape, and then they have to survive for the next 23 hours while they wait for the book to recharge. That can be kind of a fun way to regain control, right? You never want the party you want the party to feel like all of their decisions matter, but you don't really want them to drive the campaign forward. You want to be in control of what they run into. And that's not because like your party's not great or whatever, because they don't want you to think on your toes, but like you've kind of got something planned here that you're working towards. And if the party comes into something that you're not prepared for, it's not going to be a fun session, right? You're not going to have fun because you're going to be trying to come up with monster stats off the top of your head, or trying to guess at like, what does this door look like? Is it iron or steel or wood, or how do they get through it? I don't know. Here's a puzzle, but like I don't even know the answers because I just came up with this 2 seconds ago. And the party's not going to have as much fun because they're going to kind of get a sense that, you're kind of winging it, and it never quite works as well as if you have just a little bit of preparation. Half-hour preparation before the session starts sometimes can be just like golden to help you get your stuff together. So hopefully this makes some sense. You get them the book. You can make them plane shift once a day, and they want to look for the keys, right? It's just like with any other campaign where they're like, oh, you got to get the 3 pieces of the sword and assemble the sword and go fight the bad guy. This locked book can be that, right? You got to get the 3 keys, you got to put them together, you got to unlock the book, and the book will take you to a realm that you can't plane shift into when the book is locked, or it'll take you to the bad guy's lair that you want to get to. The only difference between this and a kind of campaign where you're all in a city and you're going out to fight orcs up here and go over here to fight pirates or whatever is that instead of getting on a horse to go somewhere, you teleport there dimensionally through plane shifting, which gives you like a huge breadth of opportunity for different cool, new, exciting environments. They don't have to make sense, right? You can go to like, I did like a world based off basically He-Man from the early 80s, which is just really, really weird if you read the early comics of that. It's like Conan the Barbarian, but it's like got Buck Rogers stuff going on in there, and it's really a cool, weird setting. You don't want to run an entire campaign out of there, but it's fun to run one dungeon in there and then just keep going on to the next one. But there are things that you need to keep in mind about basically making sure that you're in control of the situation and of the party and kind of on top of everything. So, I hope that's helpful. I hope that makes sense and I wasn't rambling too much. But if this sort of thing is useful to you and you like it and this was, something that you thought was cool, just leave a comment or tell me or email me or text me if you have my phone number, and we'll go from there, and maybe we'll do some more stuff like this in the future. So thanks as always for listening, and we'll see you on the next one.